One of the most important things that we talk about when it refers to using performance enhancing drugs, and specifically androgens in women and of course in men too, but a lot of the times in women, is that the effects of those steroids can be comprehensive. They can be ambiguous, and oftentimes these things aren't accounted for. It's hard to account for them. But what happens when you get something that you are expecting to be, let's say, Anavar, and it turns out to be something entirely different? Those ambiguous effects become even harder to interpret, and those side effects and their amplitude becomes so varied that you really don't even know what's happening. And then as the person in that environment, do you continue? Do you stop? Do you listen to your coach? Do you listen to your friends? What do you do? This is a conundrum that a lot of females in the industry find themselves in when they're getting a blue pill from a bottle that says it's one thing with a Sharpie marker on the bottle, and in reality it's another thing. Now, there is a way to circumvent this, and we'll talk about it in this video, but first I want to review this brand new article and study that just came out referring to this exact problem. This article is titled "Anabolic Steroids Used for Muscle Growth Contain Toxic Metals. Research Shows." It tells us a quick story, which I'll narrate for you for fun. I don't know. Let's just talk. Bedtime stories or something. If you're sleeping or eating or something, it'll just keep you occupied, I guess. Whatever. In reference to Brisbane, Australia, an 18-year-old Mark scrolls through Instagram late at night watching videos of fitness influencers showing off their muscle gains and lifting the equivalent of a baby elephant off the gym floor, spurred by the hashtags and usernames indicating these feats involved steroids. Soon, Mark is online ordering his first steroid cycle. No script, no warnings, just a vial in the mail and the promise of gains. A few weeks later, he's posting his progress shots and getting tagged as Mega Mark. He's pleased, but what if I told you Mark was unknowingly injecting toxic chemicals? And this leads us into the very important research that has been conducted recently in Australia. Essentially what they've done is they've taken a bunch of different UGL or underground lab chemicals and tested them to see what's in them. Not just the drug, but also the toxins, the heavy metals that could be present within these things. And this matters for Americans and anybody else too, because we all get the products from the same places. I was trying to establish this with someone before, but most of every pharmaceutical that you use is either manufactured in China, India, or Turkey. But a large, and I'm talking large amount of them, almost all of them, are produced in China. And so if you're getting them in Australia, it's likely that your UGL underground lab got it from China. And if you're getting it in America, your UGL or underground lab got it from China as well. They ship in the raw powders and then they cook it up with a little bit of chemistry in their kitchen or something else. Now in Australia, steroid possession, you can get a long-term sentencing, 25 years in prison for the possession and distribution of steroids. In Canada, that doesn't exist. In Thailand, that doesn't exist. You can just go to the store in Thailand and buy it. Like, no one's stopping you. In most places, it's like this. And it's kind of crazy to me that these things are so vilified in these countries as if they're as bad as opioids or fentanyl or things that are actually problems for society in mass, but it is what it is. So from this new study, they analyzed 28 steroid products acquired from people all over Australia, which they purchased either online or from peers in the gym. These included 16 injectable oils, 10 varieties of oral tablets, and 2 quote-unquote raw powders, as I just described. So to briefly explain, I think this is really important for people, especially because not many people who are using these stuff know where it's coming from. What happens is a UGL, an underground lab, is manufacturing steroids. That doesn't mean they're just like synthesizing them in their basement. No, that's not happening, and no one's gonna have the technology required to do that in modern America in their basement. What they're doing is they're putting large orders in from China, sometimes India. And these large orders will come in. They'll usually order powders by the kilogram, multiple kilograms. They ship them to their house directly or a PO box. It's actually really easy. You'd be surprised. The border security, it's not great. You can get a lot of things through the border ordering online, and many people do. It's how we get most of our things, drugs, recreational products, even in America. These things come in. They arrive at your UGL's house, most likely. It's usually a house. In some very rare instances, these upper end UGLs have warehouses, but it becomes very sketchy when you're using commercial property to do stuff like this. They get the products, and then the product is in the form of a literal powder. It's a powder form. And now what they have to do is cook it into an oil form. And this involves chemistry, heat, beakers, filters, all sorts. You would hope filters, but a lot of the times, from what I've seen, that doesn't happen, which is terrible. It's probably why some of you get post-injection pain. But anyways, they then basically put the powder into an oil. It could be MTC oil, it could be grapeseed oil, it could be many different things. Once it's in the oil at a specific concentration, which is an easy calculation to do, it's a fairly easy process altogether, believe it or not. Then they put it in a little vial, a sterile vial, call it good. This vial then gets sent to said customer. That process is a pretty quick and easy process. It is not a clean process, and nor do we know the powder from, let's say, China is going to be as it is, or it doesn't have toxins in it. So when they're referring to raw powders, they're referring to just those bulk orders of steroids that come in powdered form, which are then supposed to be what is called brewed later in the manufacturing process, essentially in the homeland of Australia. It says that an independent forensic lab tested the samples for active ingredients, contaminants, and heavy metals. We then compared the results against what people thought they were taking. More than half of the samples were mislabeled or contained the wrong drug. For example, one product labeled testosterone and enthate 200 milligrams per ml contained 159 milligrams per ml of trenbolone, which is a wild variation. I don't know what if the lab there just mislabeled it. Also, big problem is the people manufacturing and starting these UGLs usually aren't the most intelligent individuals, nor the most white glove individuals, if you understand what I'm saying. We're not buying stuff from Bugatti. We're buying stuff from I don't know, Nissan or something, right? There's not the fine touch that there is in other places. And so you have a guy in his house, maybe he's cracked out on a couple monsters and a few beers, literally, and he's just shaking and wrapping these things together and labeling them himself. And the whole process is being done himself. There's going to be a lot of mistakes. This shit happens, but I cannot believe they mistaked oh my God. They put tren as some dude's testosterone. Imagine if you were just running testosterone and you're like, dude, what is going on right now? I am angry. Everyone is out to get me. You get really paranoid on tren. Just the wildest experience ever as that person who thought he was just taking some very basic and simple testosterone. It had no detectable testosterone in it either, by the way. And the oxandrolone, or otherwise known as Anavar tablets, were labeled as a 10 milligram strength tablet, which is a pretty good dose because it's universally used. You can use it for women and cut it in fourths if you need to for 2.5 milligrams, or that's what you would hope they would do, tending to just take the whole pill, unfortunately. But these pills actually contained 6.8 milligrams, showing a far greater disparity between purity, which we'll touch on why that's an issue when we get to the contaminants. Just four of the total amount of products matched their expected compound and purity within a 5% margin of error, which is the general margin of error for most manufacturers of pharmaceutical compounds. The article goes on to say, but the biggest concern was that all steroids were analyzed and contaminated with some level of heavy metals, including lead, arsenic, and cadmium. While the concentrations that were detected were within daily exposure limits, more frequent and heavier use of these drugs would quickly see people whose use of steroids exceeds safe thresholds then cause issues, which, let's be honest, anybody using steroids, especially these varieties of steroids, are not taking it just for a couple weeks. They're not taking it at a low dose. They're taking it at high doses. They're taking it at a very long-term interval, sometimes a year plus of exposure to these compounds, and therefore the heavy metal concentrations and total concentrations of other contaminations are quite high. The article goes on to say, if consumed above safe limits, research suggests lead can damage the brain and heart. Arsenic is a proven carcinogen and has been linked to the development of skin, liver, and lung cancers. And the problem isn't that, just to conceptualize this again, most people are not just using one steroid. They're using 3, 4, 5 steroids at once. So that safety limit is considered for one steroid, right? Let's just say in this case, it was the Anavar. what happens when you're using Anavar, a little bit of clenbuterol, a little bit of Winstrol, maybe towards the end of the show, whatever it is. For a woman, this is very common, to be honest, unfortunately so. And you end up getting, a threefold effect of those heavy metal concentrations, or you're a man and you're injecting testosterone, masteron, and nandrolone, and you end up stacking 3 times X the amount of heavy metals that you were originally thinking that you would do. Now, when we're talking about lead, when we're talking about arsenic especially, and the correlation of steroid use to brain damage and heart damage, it kind of starts to make a lot more sense. Not only do the androgens negatively impact cardiac function and cognitive function, but they also are going to contain heavy metals, and the vehicle of which, steroids, being administered year-round and those things compounding on each other, make those negative and deleterious effects even greater. Now, the article does something really interesting, which I think is very rare for any kind of Australian media. Talk about basically pill testing being common at rave festivals, testing drugs like ecstasy and stuff to make sure that they aren't contaminated, and that the people need to properly invest into a testing network for steroid usage, because no matter how illegal you make it, it needs to be addressed that there are harmful effects to these compounds. And especially in the case of a woman, if she's expecting Anavar and she gets D-ball, it's going to ruin her whole life in as little as 8 weeks. She's going to change all of her features in as little as 8 weeks. And they go on to make a point that there should be nationwide steroid testing programs integrated so that there is a community health service for all of the bodybuilders who are actively using steroids. Instead of abolishing steroid usage, you should try to help people who are using it so that there's less consequential issues with its use, because no matter what you do, it is always going to be used. The reality is, in this tough world, whether you believe in steroid use or not, in almost every other country outside of a minority of countries, it is completely legal. Like I said, living in Thailand, you can walk into the store and grab whatever you want, and you just ask the pharmacist and they give it to you. They even tell you how to use it, which is something that's really important that doesn't get done when you're buying things from a UGL. And that in and of itself is part of the problem. If you want steroids, they're not hard to get because the rest of the world is openly allowing them to be used. They're not seen as like a classified drug, or even if they are, it's not a regulated thing where people are actually getting in trouble for their use. It's just, hey, he's using steroids. Okay, cool. So it creates this really hush-hush dynamic that ends up being a horrible thing, honestly. And you get situations where we've talked about before, and I have some really interesting stories coming out soon, where, male coaches are telling women to do things they have no idea. They don't know what they're taking. They don't. In some cases, I have stories of coaches saying that they're just giving their client a vitamin. They even branded as their own vitamin, like their own brand. And the vitamin is Anavar. And they don't understand the complexity of compound. If this stuff was talked about more, right? If it was openly discussed, there was testing provided, you would have a lot less of the situations that we cover on this channel. If you don't remember Georgie Daniels, we did a video on her. She got her voice to change in 1 cycle. And essentially that was suspected to be from a compound that she thought she got, which was not what she got. In this case, I don't know, she didn't quote me or say or really correct me on this at all, but I believe she probably got Anavar, or thought she was getting Anavar, and likely got something entirely different, which is knowingly more harsh for women. D-ball, Winstrol, Anadrol, you name it, right? It's out there.
Sounded before. Let's try this again just to make sure you can catch this.
So one of my videos did a little good, and people are commenting that I'm small, and that is totally opinionated, so I'm not gonna hate you because you think I'm small. But I asked him, I said, hey, so what will prove to you that I'm not the same size? And he said, a similar picture, so here you go.
I am 30 pounds up from my bodybuilding show in June. How have I learned to accept my body in the off season? Featuring the Protan, because I'm literally getting on a bodybuilding stage.
And from just that little bit of an exposure to a not considered drug, there was lifelong problems. And this is what you see happen so often within the industry. I don't know, take it as you will. If you like the video, like, comment, subscribe. It helps the channel out massively. I really want to get to 50,000 subscribers. It would be so joyous for me. It really would. If you're interested, we do have a couple links down below to help out the channel. That's really all I can ask from you. I appreciate you. I hope you have a beautiful day. Stay strong, stay happy, smile through the bullshit. Left, right, left, right. That's all you got to do. Walk one step one day, another step another day. It might seem like the end is not coming. The end of the hardship is not coming, but I promise you it is, brother. You just got to keep walking, dog. At some point, it's going to stop. At some point, you're going to walk further than everybody else, and some of the hardship will ease off, right? Some of the rough path will cool down, and you'll finally get a smooth path to walk on. It's going to happen. You just have to keep walking. All right, don't give up yet. We'll talk to you later.